Welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful systems in modern logistics, SAP Transportation Management. We're going to break down the 5 core pillars that take the crazy chaos of a supply chain and turn it into a smooth, efficient operation. Think of this as your roadmap to understanding how it all really works. So, to really get our heads around this, let's start with a puzzle. Just picture this, a huge order, 5,000 brand new laptops. They need to get from a factory floor all the way across borders and land on a specific store shelf, and they have to do it on time without a single problem. This is exactly the kind of thing modern logistics has to solve every single day, and we're going to follow this laptop journey through our whole explainer. Because look, if all those little steps, the order, the planning, the actual shipping, the payment, if they aren't talking to each other, you just get chaos. We're talking about expensive delays, paying way too much for freight because you couldn't find the best deal, or even, whole shipments just vanishing into thin air. The stakes are incredibly high. But there is a better way. When you have a clear blueprint, a step-by-step plan where all the information just flows from one stage to the next, well, that chaos turns into control. It becomes predictable, it becomes efficient, and that blueprint, that's exactly what we're here to walk through. This entire blueprint is built on 5 essential pillars. First up, we've got requirements. That's all about capturing the demand. Then we move into planning, figuring out the smartest way to move it. Next up is execution, actually making it happen. That's followed by the financial part, the settlement. And finally, analytics, so we can keep getting better. This is our roadmap for today. Okay, let's dive into that first pillar, requirements and order management. Every single transportation journey, I don't care if it's for 5,000 laptops or just one little box, starts right here. It all begins with that initial need, the demand to move something from point A to point B. So inside SAP TM, this demand gets captured in something called a transportation requirement. You can think of it as the official starting gun for the whole race. It answers the basic questions. What needs to move? Where is it coming from? And where is it going? For our laptop journey, this is the system officially saying, hey, we've got 5,000 units that need to ship. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, how the system adapts. See, if you're a shipper, like our laptop company, that demand comes from inside your own company, from a sales order. That creates an OTR or a DTR. But if you're a logistics company, say a freight forwarder, your demand comes directly from a customer. And in that case, it creates what's called a forwarding order, or FWO. It's the same basic idea, just tailored for 2 different ways of doing business. So once the system knows what needs to move, we hit the second pillar, transportation planning. And honestly, this is the brain of the whole operation. This is where we figure out the smartest, most efficient, most cost-effective way to get those 5,000 laptops where they need to go. The whole planning process kicks off by breaking that big requirement down into these little manageable chunks called freight units, or FUs. An FU is simply the smallest group of items that has to travel together. So for our laptops, maybe one FU is one fully packed pallet. These FUs become the basic building blocks for creating our entire shipment plan. And to assemble all those building blocks into the perfect plan, the system unleashes its most powerful tool, the optimizer engine. Now, this isn't just some simple scheduler. It's a seriously sophisticated brain, and its whole job is to find the single best solution out of millions of possibilities. Yeah, the optimizer doesn't just guess, it's analyzing a massive amount of real-world information. It's looking at all the different prices from carriers, it's checking their available truck space, it's making sure it hits the delivery window, it's calculating the best routes, and it's even figuring out the physical stuff, like how to load the pallets to be most efficient. It just crunches all that data in seconds. And the result of all that heavy-duty thinking? It's a document called the freight order, or FO. This is the master plan. This is the official, actionable instruction that gets sent over to the carrier we picked, telling them exactly what to pick up, where, and when to deliver it. The brain has officially made its decision. And that brings us perfectly to our third pillar, transportation execution. Right? Because a perfect plan is just a piece of paper until the wheels are actually turning. This whole phase is about turning that plan into real, physical action. So during execution, a bunch of key things happen. The system automatically generates all the critical legal documents, like the bill of lading. It shoots the final plan over to the warehouse so they can get the laptops ready to be loaded. And this is huge. It enables real-time tracking so everybody can watch the shipment's progress and make sure it's hitting all its key milestones along the way. Okay, so once those laptops are delivered, we hit a pillar that is critical for every single business. Pillar 4, freight, costing, and settlement. This is all about the money, making sure carriers get paid correctly and on time, and that we're not overspending. You know, financial accuracy doesn't start at the end of the trip. It starts way before the truck ever leaves. It begins with the freight agreement, or FA. This is basically the digital contract you have with your carrier. It has all the rates you agreed on, fuel surcharges, any extra fees. This is what makes sure there are no nasty financial surprises later on. So, the carrier has done their job. The laptops are delivered, we've got the proof of delivery. Now it's time to settle the invoice and close that financial loop for good. And this is handled with a freight settlement document, or FSD. The system uses this FSD to automatically calculate what the cost should be based on the rates we already agreed to in the freight agreement. So when the carrier's invoice shows up, we use the FSD to check it, making sure we only pay for exactly what we got at the price we agreed to. It gives you total financial control. It's fantastic. And that brings us to our fifth and final pillar, analytics and collaboration. See, the process isn't really over just because one shipment is done. The whole goal here is to learn from every single transport so we get smarter and more efficient for the next one. This is where it all comes full circle. This is where the system turns all that raw data into real business insights. You can track all kinds of key metrics, like your on-time delivery rate, your average cost per shipment. You can even create scorecards to measure how well your carriers are performing. This data is the fuel that drives constant improvement. So as you can see, it's not just 5 separate steps. These 5 pillars, requirements, planning, execution, settlement, and analytics, they're all deeply connected. They form this single unbroken chain that creates a seamless flow of both the physical goods and the critical information, all the way from the first order to the final payment and analysis. And that really brings us to our final thought. When you look at this complete, connected process, it kind of makes you ask the question, right? What value, what cost savings, what service improvements are hiding in your own supply chain, just waiting to be unlocked by putting a clear, integrated blueprint just like this into place?